Hello and welcome back to Hold On I'm Talking Brother. My name is Joe Greenwood and you are listening to our UFC 279 review. Diaz versus Ferguson in the welterweight division. And Tom Ballum, last week's episode for us, aged like a glass of milk in the sun. It was pretty much irrelevant as soon as we uploaded it. And crazy stuff happened this weekend with regards to the UFC. And Tom, I've got a very simple question for you. Who was the knight in shining armour for this pay-per-view?
Very apt question, Joe, because there were a few names that stood out, and a few people have been getting crazy after the card, after the event. But I think we actually have to look back and kind of break down what actually went down here to give us this very strange, contrived card we ended up with, to really fully explore who gets the medal for that one.
Well, let's start there. Press conference on the Thursday happens, or doesn't happen, gets cancelled due to Kevin Holland. Go on, Tom.
Well, I was there live, Joe. I was pretty excited, pretty excited about this. Stayed up late, and it was pretty apparent pretty early on in that one that there was something up.
Right.
They only set out 2 chairs.
Right.
And they were like running on stage to put up the name tags for each fighter coming out individually. Dana was there. It all looked like very haphazard, not like the organised nature of our pod, which is thoroughly planned
of course,
and executed on time. Hence why we got our pod out there, and it was then shat on by the disorganised UFC because, Joe, Dana was caught up on stage and he had to call it off after having just had Kevin Holland and D-Rod.
Khamzat Chimaev.
Well, no, sorry. It was Kevin Holland and D-Rod on the stage talking about their prospective matchup. They did have a press conference.
Right.
Sort of. They were kind of like, just like warming the mic. I don't know, imagine like a stand-up comedy event and they just kind of like shuffle out the intern because like the comedian's doing lines in the back or something. And they were just kind of like, all right, and they kept looking over their shoulder to see when the main act was coming.
Right.
Main act didn't emerge. Dana left red face. Some other bold Dana lookalike comes up, whispers something in Dana's ear, and you can hear him say, just cut it. Just
really?
Shaking his arms. GoofCon 1 activated, red face. And then, for public safety.
That's mad.
To be called off.
That's mad. They talked about this, that Holland and Chimaev got into it backstage, and that Diaz's crew then rolled up, and Diaz had a crew of 50 plus, and then they started getting into it. Chimaev's crew, which was 37 people, I think Dana said.
Wow.
Which is insane, isn't it? Like, it's insane. So that goes down, and you're thinking, can't wait to see the footage of that. No footage comes out, which is ludicrous. So obviously the UFC has said to all these guys and their camera people, don't you dare upload any of this until we've done it so we can make some money off of this. Then we cut to the Friday and the weigh-in start and the whispers start as well. Chimaev isn't going to make weight. Everyone knew this. Ariel was tweeting out that it's 10 pounds over, which is crazy. Crazy. Diaz rocks up. He's fist bumping people, he's high-fiving, he's looking happy. Hits 171 on the mark. Chimaev comes out and weighs 178.5 pounds, 7.5 pounds over. Many stories now have come out about what happened. Dana's claiming it was the doctor that stopped the weight cut. Chimaev's coach today has said it was him that stopped the weight cut, which is interesting.
Well, so once Chimaev's come out and he's 10 pounds over, 8.5 pounds over, and seemingly not fussed at all, gives it a not bad as well as the double gun salute. He doesn't care.
Flip the bird as well to all the media.
Then we have a problem, right? Because Nate Diaz is not stupid. He's not taking that fight.
No.
So who is stupid? Or who can we pay? Now, to put this into context, weak card, iffy main event, iffy co-main.
Yeah.
Here we got Khamzat Chimaev potentially costing the UFC in the region of $40 to $50 million. People getting refunds for their tickets in this stadium. ESPN cancelling their deal. UFC getting blacklisted. Yeah. What are you going to do, Dana? What are you going to do?
He does the correct thing and books the card that it should have been in the first place. Thank God, by the way, Kevin Holland and Daniel Rodriguez was a catchweight fight. And that those guys weighed what they did. And that the Leech, by the way...
Which was 180 pounds.
Yes, and the Leech, by the way, was willing to fight a guy at that weight in Daniel Rodriguez. So the UFC reshuffles it and makes it the main event, Nate Diaz versus Tony Ferguson, which is what the main event should have been in the first place. At 170. Yep. That's what it should have been in the first place. Khamzat Chimaev faces Kevin Holland in the co-main event. 5 rounds as well. Not that was needed, but Kevin Holland requested that. And then Li Jingliang fought Daniel Rodriguez. And in theory, a better card. In theory. Yeah,
well, Li Jingliang giving up £10, a massive £10 to Daniel Rodriguez. Considerable weight advantage.
And a much more difficult opponent as well. Like, that's Li Jingliang got the raw.
Hey, Joe, I picked Tony by decision. So... having seen how it all played out, I'm not sure I'd pick that one again if they do remake that in the future.
Yeah.
Now, look, who gets the gold star? I think you kind of have to go through the fights now.
Yeah.
And we have to talk about how they ended up to really give out the gold star. But I've got my man selected. I hope you've got someone in mind too.
Oh, yeah, I've got mine selected. Let's start now with the main event. Nate Diaz versus Tony Ferguson. A fight that had been talked about for many years as needing to happen. 2 OGs of the game as it was billed going into this. And it finishes in round 4 with Nate Diaz getting a guillotine with 2 minutes and 9 seconds left of the round. 2:09 Stockton, baby. And let's start with the actual fight itself and then we'll get to the narrative around it. This was horrible, wasn't it, Tom? This was a horrible, horrible experience watching this fight.
Are you telling me it was just too real for you, Joe? These OGs swanging and showing the kids how it should be? Is that what was horrible?
It was dreadful. Like, this was dreadful. Like, Nate Diaz is a fun fighter when he's got the right opponent in there. Conor McGregor, hell, even Anthony Pettis, you know, when they fought a couple years ago. But Tony Ferguson, we love Tony Ferguson. It's clear that we love Tony Ferguson. He is so far gone from washed that it's crazy. And in reality, I feel like Diaz should have got this finished a lot sooner.
So Joe, the alarm bells for me, they started when Tony entered the octagon before Diaz even showed up.
Really?
Yeah. Tony was like kicking the board, the kind of the parts of the octagon, the points on it, and he was kind of running from side to side, turning, and I was like, "What? It's not looking so fast here."
No,
this is like if I asked my dad to to bring me a tea or something these days.
Oh, bless him.
My dad's 85, and Tony, he was looking so wooden, Joe. He just had no spring. He had no. It was crazy. I was shocked by it. It was like some Zumba class for old ladies watching him warm up.
Jeez.
I couldn't believe he couldn't turn around.
It was looking a bit like Chuck Liddell, like when he fought Tito for the third time, or even Chuck Liddell towards the end of his run. Once
the fight got going, that was really, I'm sorry to say, that's what came to mind. Because one of Tony's signatures, it is spinning, it's the back elbows, it's the Granby rolls, the Imanari rolls. It's that's it. Wild elbows, wild angles. But he's just lost. He's lost everything. He's so slow. It's
the thing is that I don't think he's. The thing with his game plan, the fact that he's lost a step makes it look so much worse than it actually is. Because it's not like, I was thinking about this the other day when we were talking about, fighters with their longevity, and we were talking about Aldo and the fact, but Aldo's a counter striker. Like, he's all right if someone's got a lot of speed around them because he'll just wait for you to come in. And I was thinking about Marlon Vera, for example. Marlon Vera is a very patient fighter. I feel like he's going to have longevity to his career because he doesn't rush into these things. He waits and bides his time and picks and chooses his shot. Whereas Tony Ferguson is the definition of an action fighter who gets out there and chases it. And when you lose that step, it is so noticeable, and it was really noticeable. And what makes it all the more annoying is that Tony had a really good game plan. Like, his game plan was kind of working. Like, it was I don't know. It was a risible fight in reality that was made only really acceptable for the fact it was Nate Diaz and Tony Ferguson, and they were doing some weird stuff.
I mean, what was cracking me up, and this is a little bit dark humor, but they kept saying to Tony, stop turning your back on him. And I'm like, guys, he's trying to spin.
Yeah.
It's just taking so long. They think he's giving up his back when he's trying to escape out of positions, but he's trying to spin there.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about the game plan of Ferguson. He did work the leg, and he was herding Nate Diaz, chopping those low kicks. In the third round, of course, we had Diaz kind of feigning disinterest, in the fight, kind of cheering up the crowd. I had some friends texting me what's going on, and I told them Nate's hurt. He's absolutely, those are herding, stinging leg kicks. He doesn't want any more, and Tony kind of gave him a pause there. Didn't know how to deal with that.
I think also people forget about like Tony's training. Like, remember the videos that would come out of him like just kicking metal poles?
Yeah.
Do you remember
that's been demonstrably proved that you should not. We now know.
He was doing that training for the Khabib title fight, and it's like, well, maybe it could have been interesting if he landed some of those shots on Khabib if they actually ever fought. But I mean, he's clearly blunted those limbs, those bones, as much as he can to the point.
Shin to shin in this one.
It was shin to shin on action. Ferguson was throwing them even after they'd been checked multiple times.
And he had a huge welt that was gushing from his leg.
Yeah.
Didn't stop him throwing.
And then also his face as well was getting busted up. Can I talk about the landed by target significant strikes for these two opponents here? So to the leg, Ferguson threw 42% of his strikes to the leg, Diaz 8%. To the body, Ferguson 28, Diaz 20. To the head, Tony 28, Diaz 70. Like, Diaz busted him up on the feet when it came to head strikes. And I think that, for me, Ferguson had the right game plan. But as you say, going to the legs and then going to the body, I think he could have gone to the head a bit more. But he had the right game plan. But due to the fact that he is so battered, and he is just like 2-3 years past his best. I mean,
Joe.
More than that, actually.
It must be, because the fall is just too steep. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen somebody fall off the cliff like this.
I think even in the Donald Cerrone fight, where Ferguson destroyed Cerrone in reality, I mean, he lost the first round, but he came back and destroyed him in the second. That was still a diminished Ferguson at that stage.
Would you feel comfortable picking Tony Ferguson to beat Donald Cerrone now?
Yes.
Oh, well.
I think Cerrone's that far gone. I mean, I know he's retired, but yeah, I'd still pick Ferguson. I think you'd be a lot more competitive. Like,
come on, Nate Diaz is not finishing Tony Ferguson 5 years ago.
No,
he's not getting close.
No, I think Ferguson is more likely to finish him as well in a 5-round fight those years ago. But that's the fight game, and that's what Tony Ferguson was willing to sacrifice with his ridiculous training, with his crazy style. He blew his knee out, before the Khabib fight, and he came back. It was like 5 months later, fighting Pettis, and it's like he just rushed back from that injury.
What Tony's legacy is going to be then is like a warning. It's a warning to the others in so many ways. But ultimately, he the other funny thing here is his coaches were calling for him to shoot a takedown, and then also during the going into the fight, he was talking about going back to basics and hyping up his kind of prior status as a Division 1 wrestler.
Yeah, D1 wrestler.
Again? Yeah, he was a D1 wrestler, and that he was going to go into these fundamentals with the team now that he's with, more traditional. Finally, shoots a takedown, gets choked out almost immediately. Good stuff from Nate. He's always had that in his game, and it was it was pretty quick when the opportunity came up. But then we get to the kind of the summary of the fight. You get to the...
Hold on, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Diaz's performance just for a moment. I mean, there's nothing that we glean from this for him, is there? Other than he's got good jiu-jitsu. He clearly trained to get taken down because he snatched that guillotine straight away. Yeah. But in terms of him, the fighter, it's kind of more the same, but not as good as it once was. I feel like when we saw him against Pettis, when we saw him in the 2 Conor fights, he was so good in those fights. I thought that. Comparing him to this, it's just not the same.
The Conor fight's always going to be a hard one to reflect on because he was the much bigger man at that time. Like, he was. And it was, I think Conor definitely underestimated that going into the first fight, and there was a big mismatch on the mat. Yeah. And Conor did it correct for those things, and yeah, they had a close fight second time, but Conor overcame him. And then, yeah, the Pettis fight, that was a great showing. I don't know. Well, I feel like Diaz, he's probably 85%, 80% of what he was. And then there's 2 things that's happened. One is the sport has moved on, and 2, Tony is, 10% of what it's just shocking. It's shocking. So what do we think about Diaz? We think good for him.
Oh, it was great to see. It was great to see a guy get one over on the UFC like this.
But Tony, he could have finished Nate. I mean, that wasn't that far away. It wasn't implausible in the third round.
So irritating that he went for that takedown as well in the 4th.
Yeah.
Just keep chopping at the legs. Like, what were his coaches seeing?
What was your feeling, Joe? What was your feeling at that point in the fight? Did you think that Diaz was the closer to a finish? Did you think it would go the distance?
I thought he was fading. I thought he was struggling. I thought if Tony just stuck to this of kick the legs, throw to the body, maybe try and throw a bit more to the head, then maybe he could have got a decision. Because I'm going to ask you here, how did you score this fight? Because I've seen numbers all over the place for how people scored it.
So, quite honestly, Joe, I never thought this was going 5 rounds. After the first round, I think I let you know kind of in live time that I was really I was just so sad for Tony. After the first round, funnily enough, I gave him that round. But after that, my pencil, out of respect, it hit the mat, and I didn't think it was. I don't want to say it didn't deserve to be scored, or it didn't need to be scored. But
you just felt sick at the thought of doing it.
A little bit. I didn't find it a sporting spectacle.
Fair enough.
And I didn't dignify it with scoring it.
Fair enough. I mean, we normally ask what's next for these guys when we do our review episode, but what's next for Nate is probably boxing or something else ridiculous, and for Tony, it should be hanging the gloves up.
Tony's back, Joe. You didn't hear him post-fight?
It was a sad sight, wasn't it? Him with that terrible dye job, saying "I'm back, baby," and it's like.
But okay, yes, that was tragic, but. I don't know, on some level, he was so happy in defeat. I mean, that is turning a corner. Yeah. He relishes being the company man.
Yeah.
And he was an ultimate company man here. I don't know, he got a showing, he got paid. He has a family.
So what do we do? We give him Robbie Lawler or something? Do we give him Clay Guida? Give him Jim Miller?
No.
Come. Whoa! You think
I think
Miller smokes him?
I think Miller smokes him. Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's crazy. No, but I think it's Chuck Liddell, catch weight. I think that's all we're talking about for Tony. Really, Joe.
Let's move on. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the cutting edge of the sport. Khamzat Chimaev defeats Kevin Holland.
Just to round up, my gold medal, it didn't go to either of those guys.
Okay, fair enough.
Star of the sport.
Khamzat Chimaev defeats Kevin Holland in round number 1 by Darce choke. He had that Darce choke locked in for a good minute of that round of him just Holland fighting as best he could.
Credit to Holland.
Real credit to Holland there, but my God, Chimaev shut him out. Holland, I'm going to read off the stats in a second.
Well, it's no significant strikes again, isn't it, Joe? It's like...
let me get the stats up here, Hugh. Holland, no significant strikes thrown or landed. Total strikes, none thrown or landed. Chimaev, 0 for 1 on significant strikes, 1 of 2 on total strikes, 2 out of 5 takedowns, and 2 sub-attacks. The fight was 2 minutes 13, and Chimaev had control for 1 minute 56 of the fight. That is insane. That he shut him out to such an incredible level. Chimaev, for whatever you want to say about his personality, I think there's some things that need to be sorted out there. I think he's got...
Jack Slack thinks he's simple. That's what he thinks the problem is.
You know what? I don't want to take credit, but I was having that thought in his post-fight interview. I think there's something up with this guy. I think there's something missing. Like, I feel like he could be maybe quite easily distracted. You know, I'm not saying with like a set of keys jingling in his face or anything, but I do think there is something there.
Is that the key, Joe? Have you just found the key? Like, what's this?
If Kevin Holland instead of raising his hand out to feel him out, he just had a bit of keys here and then just slipped to left hand down the middle. Yeah, maybe. I think Chimaev, he's quite something. But what do we do with this guy? I mean, I said it before. The fight is obviously Colby Covington. Like, if you're gonna, come on, man. Covington's not faced anyone of any significance in the rankings other than Usman ever in the UFC. Or maybe Damian Maia at the time that he beat him.
Yes, but now let me bring up one big glaring problem with that fight. Are we going to let Khamzat fight at 170? Just like that? No problem? Doesn't matter, bro?
I say give him a fight at 185 before the end of the year, and then tell him...
All right, hold on.
March.
Who's that?
Got Covington.
Because there are people saying Robert Whittaker.
Oh. Did you see Chimaev talking about Whittaker?
No, I haven't seen that.
He said he's not interested in fighting him because he likes him. And it's like, I think you know that Whittaker would smoke you, bro. Like,
really? Do you know that?
In my heart of hearts, I think Robert Whittaker defeats Khamzat Chimaev.
Joe, if that is true, make that fight. Make that fight. I'm sorry. Like, you really?
I think Whittaker beats him.
Oh my god, I want to see it.
I want to see it. It'd be amazing.
I love Whittaker, and of course I give him every credit. But come on, let's just think about what we've seen from Chimaev.
Chimaev is the best one-round fighter in the UFC currently. We know that he's the best one-round. Is he the best fighter in the UFC? The only way to do that is to prove it by going out there and facing Robert Whittaker. The Robert Whittakers of the world, the Gilbert Burns.
Steel sharpens steel.
It's true. It's true. Are you going to go out there? Like, listen, he could go out there and face... What about Marvin Vittori?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was leaning towards, yeah.
Yeah,
Vittori.
Yeah, that'd be interesting if he fought Vittori. That'd be really interesting. Imagine if he knocks out Vittori. Oh, my days.
That's not possible, is it? That can't be done.
I'll take that bet. if that fight happens, I'll take that bet. Yeah, that's what I would do. Or unless you want to give him a soft middleweight fight. Like, I don't know. I just
don't say Brunson. There's no one. Sorry, no.
What?
Well, like who are you gonna? I mean, Paulo Costa.
Oh my days! It's weird how like I'm way more excited for him at middleweight than I am at welterweight.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
Anyway.
Well, it could be that it's because we got a British champ finally, and I'd rather move Khamzat away from him now.
Well, I also think Leon Usman 3 is the only fight to be making there. Like, are we going to disrespect? Are we going to disrespect Usman for the sake of this guy who couldn't make weight for 170?
No question. That's not a discussion. I mean, the other thing on Chimaev before we move on to Kevin Holland, the post-fight interview, Joe.
Is there any comments that stood out for you?
Well, I don't know if I can air them on here without attracting suspicion from anti-terrorism organisations.
Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, well, I'm not. I'm not gonna. Shall I put it in? I don't know what to do. Like,
I don't think we can. Like, I was commenting on it to friends and to you indeed. And honestly, typing out word for word what he said, I was like, oh my god, I'm done. I need to be doing this with a VPN because it's just No, but he said it live in front of an American crowd, almost on the anniversary of 9/11.
Oh God, I didn't even think of that. Oh God, he was screaming it as well into the microphone. Listeners, if you don't know what we're talking about, go look it up and you'll figure out what the sentence is. Yeah, that's a really good point actually. That's a bit mad. I found something out about Chimaev as well in the weigh-in thing. So I was listening to the Ariel Helwani show on the Ringer Spotify channel where they're commentating on the weigh-ins as they happen, and they had this Irish journalist there who was covering it, and he was at the weigh-ins and he was talking about he was seeing Dana and he was looking at Dana's face. He was getting really red and angry. But anyway, apparently Chimaev in Sweden is discussed in the media, but not for his fighting. It's more for his links to Kadyrov and the Russian politicians and stuff like that. Like, Chimaev is such a brash, loud personality that I think that, I mean, if we do go with the Jack Slack theory that he's simple, it's going to get himself in a lot of trouble sooner rather than later. And I think he needs to just stick to the catchphrases of, I will smash him, and that.
I don't think he will be an all-time great. I'm saying it now.
Who, Chimaev?
Yeah.
Why? Why do you say that?
I mean, like, not talking about in sporting terms. I'm talking about in like legacy and what he goes on to achieve in the sport,
right? And
like longevity, you know.
So when you say that, so then by that measure, then who would you consider then all-time greats?
I would have guys like Anderson Silva, and GSP, and Kamaru Usman. Now, Daniel Cormier, Max Holloway, Jose Aldo, Miocic, ultimately a heavyweight. Yeah, these are all household names. Ngannou,
he's on the cusp, maybe.
Yeah. He's on the cusp.
If they do what Dana said of doing an event in Africa, like he's looking at venues in Africa,
I mean,
and he defends the title.
Sold. Oh my god, for sure.
Can you imagine the scenes, by the way, of that? Ngannou in
beautiful
Cameroon.
Beautiful.
Stadium going crazy. It'd be incredible, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be incredible.
I'm thinking about, by the way, all the fighters that would want to be on that card, who are like very open and proud about their African heritage. Yeah, you could have one of the most amazing cards. Like,
like iconic. You know, Rumble in the Jungle. Yeah, Thriller. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, not Thriller in Manila, but but yeah, that sort of moment. Anyway, let's talk about Kevin Holland. I'm going to ask you a question. Oh, sorry, unless there was something about Chimaev you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, well, I think we underlined it with the kind of names we're throwing in there. I just don't think Chimaev will be looked upon affectionately with the likes of those guys. You know,
the weight cutting issues as well. I honestly think that he didn't take this week seriously. I think he was expecting just to walk through Nate Diaz, and I think that his team messed up. I know that he only got his visa to get into the US on Monday, meaning that he could only land on the Tuesday, so he didn't have enough days really to acclimatise. But that still doesn't excuse the fact that he didn't make weight. Guys have made weight on less. You know, I think Masvidal and Usman, when they fought for the first time, like when they made weight like that, they were not in a position to do that, and they did it. Chimaev had everything in his favour. Yeah. Everything in his favour, and he didn't do it.
I mean, like, we never know. There could be some legitimate reason. It seems deeply unprofessional. It's comfortable to shit on him, but then you add in the context and how he took it and how he portrayed it. And obviously his comments post-fight. I mean, his willingness to fight Diaz anyway in the first place, and it's just, that's it's the whole picture together, which which makes me feel pretty comfortable in saying that. But it's he certainly has the potential. It's in his hands. Then you also look. Sorry, just last thing on Chimaev. You look at the whole COVID thing, the retirement, and like the boom and bust. Yeah, I don't know. Could he go off the rails? Could he do something outside the ring? Some personal adversity, will that stop him? Yeah.
You mean like a John Jones sort of scenario of him doing something crazy in his personal life?
You notice who I didn't notice when we talked about all-time greats and, Hall of Fame? It was that man, John Jones, and obviously his legacy is a bit questionable in hindsight. So, Kevin Holland, Joe.
That's your gold medal guy, isn't it?
Of course it is, because he he was asked how he felt about the fight in UFC terms. It was Megan Oliva, I think. How do you feel about the new matchup? Do you fancy your chances here? And he was like, "Oh hell no, fuck no." But at least I'm going to get paid, and I hope he did, because he did what he could. It was a couple of Granbys. They looked pretty nice. Maybe improved defense better than we've seen in the past. But he got absolutely smoked there. No shame. I'll tell you what,
if he breaks out those Granbys against some other welterweights, I think he's getting out. He's getting out. Yeah. I think he came out with a lot of credit, and frankly, like the next two guys we're going to talk about, he should be rewarded with his next fight.
Who's that going to be?
Well.
Now Kevin Holland, is he going to be a welterweight or a middleweight? What's the deal?
Welterweight. He's making the run at welterweight. Okay. If we go on that rationale, I think him versus Wonderboy. I think that's a just.
He called for that fight,
and I think that's a fair reward. Wonderboy says he doesn't want to face a wrestler; he wants to face a striker. He definitely ain't going to be wrestled against Holland. I think that's a fair fight. I think that's going to be a fun fight as well. I think that, and their combination of personalities, I think they would mix well together.
I wonder about someone like Jorge Masvidal for Kevin Holland. It's a huge fight. Sounds fun though, doesn't it? That
does sound fun. I know that Masvidal Burns is close to being done, but
does that sound fun? We're all about the fun here on Hold On, I'm Talking, brother.
I think Burns should be rewarded for taking Chimaev and having one of the best fights of the year. Get a win over Masvidal and, get himself moving back up. Get maybe a Colby fight, something along those lines, like moving up in that direction.
I mean, Burns-Masvidal, that would be 4th versus 9th already. Burns is kind of past that level, isn't he? What about Burns-Bilal?
Well, Bilal's facing Brady in October, so maybe the winner of that fight. But that, again, does that do much for Burns' name? Burns versus Covington would be good. Because the other thing with Burns is that he can crack. He's got heavy, heavy hands, and could be interesting to see. Anyway, we're talking about fighters that I've been fighting on this card. Let's talk about Li Jingliang versus Daniel Rodriguez. Rodriguez wins a split decision over Li. I'm going to ask you straight up, how did you score this fight?
I gave it to the Leech. I gave the first and the second round without any hesitation to the Leech, and the third, a bit questionable for me.
That's the exact same scoring for me. I gave the third to Rodriguez. Rounds 1 and 2 to the Leech. I thought the Leech was really good. Really good combinations. Great, good, strong single striking. Good combination of power punching off the right and left immediately, switching his stances. Made Rodriguez kind of look a bit pedestrian.
Well, one more huge factor there. Great head movement. Getting off the centre line, which was not totally neutralising, but really limiting Rodriguez to jabs. Rodriguez, he was very one-dimensional. That jab was finding a home on occasion, but the Leech was just liquid, fluid.
Do you know what the Leech hit as well, which I love, which is the Dustin Poirier jab straight, stepping through into the straight from the other hand. So you go, let's say, jab with the left hand, straight with the right hand, step through, straight with the left hand. Did that a couple times. I was just like, splooge. I love it. Rodriguez, he was hitting the jab, but not that much.
No.
I think it was a little bit overrated, to be honest. And he only had 3 weeks to prepare for Kevin Holland. He's probably thinking, right, I've got to try and jab and get in on takedown on this guy. Has to take the Leech on a day's notice. Yeah, these guys aren't going to have a great performance with a day's notice.
Hold up. Elephant in the room here.
Yeah.
Which was the weight differential. I'm not going to give a sympathetic view to Daniel Rodriguez here.
No.
That is a
Leech.
Considerable advantage to already have not had to cut down those 10 pounds before the weight that you can actually balloon up to in the fight. So I think D-Rod's got to give a better account of himself. Now, the judges gave it to him. Really frustrating.
Dana didn't give it to him. In the post-fight press conference, he was very clear that he gave it to the Leech, and he said, I wasn't sure what the judges saw. But I think he was pretty soft on Rodriguez for his performance. But yeah, I think Leech, he got the shit end of the stick here. Didn't get to show off his suit at the press conference. Got given an opponent who's bigger than him quite significantly and a lot more difficult than Tony Ferguson. Won the fight and did nothing for didn't get any sort of, I don't know. And yeah, didn't get his win money. I mean, ridiculous. Anyway,
so we got to reward him with a proper matchup then.
And that's why I was kind of thinking Wonderboy. I think Wonderboy should either be matched up with Leech or Holland. Do it for the December pay-per-view. They should. Both Holland and the Leech should be rewarded with a big fight on the December pay-per-view.
Agreed.
That should be their reward. It's going to be a big spot on the main card. They should get that. Hell, why not match them up with each other? That could be a fun fight to have. Maybe early next year. But I don't know, maybe... Well, actually, what about this? Leech versus Masvidal.
Wow. Jesus. That's very, very generous. I mean, the Leech has become something of a fan favourite. He is, he's really emerging into that space. Masvidal would define him as that. I'd find that an interesting matchup.
I think also the Leech's story is kind of... People have cottoned onto it. Did you see him being interviewed this week and him sort of breaking down a little bit, talking about how he's been away from his family for a year, basically, just training. And it's like, you don't really see that sort of emotion before a fight. And he seems like just a really nice guy, and shows a lot of respect to his opponents.
The Leech Masvidal's never happening.
Oh, it should though.
It's never happening. They would never make that fight.
It should happen, though.
They might make Holland versus Masvidal. I wonder what will happen to the Leech's spot in the rankings here. He's at 14. He should have won the fight. D-Rod, he is just outside the rankings, although he didn't even make the weight.
Leech should keep his ranking.
So, I mean, there is Michel Pereira below him. Maybe he drops out in favour of D-Rod. Should he get a ranking off the back of this?
No.
Right.
He didn't even. Okay. He wasn't at the weight.
No.
To me, there's no rankings movement. Neither should Khamzat move in the rankings if he is going to be. Right, let's talk about this. Irene Aldana defeats Macy Chiasson with up kick to the liver, I guess is how would you describe it? I thought it was quite a good fight, actually. That armbar from Aldana in the first round, that was brutal. Some nice submission transitions there. And then in the second round, Chiasson with some really good grappling. I thought she was starting to take it away from Aldana there. Gets Aldana to the ground, stands above her, and then Aldana up kicking. When you first saw this, did you think that it was an up kick to the liver, or was it something else that you thought had happened?
I thought there was an active shooter.
Because it was a low blow.
Oh yeah, to the
nethers.
To the nethers, right? Yeah. I mean, she folded immediately. In hindsight, that is classic liver shot response. But just because we've never seen that in the entire history of the sport, I didn't really consider that she had laser precision liver kicked her from the bottom. Of course, I don't think that is what happened. They asked her, did she train that? Come on, Joe. She didn't train that. She was fighting for her life, throwing up kicks, and she happened to hit the button and got away with one. Got lucky.
Good for her. Yeah, good for her. I think that this probably justifies a title shot for her. She's won 3 in a row. No, and everyone else that's ranked above her has faced Nunes and lost. So why not, bro?
God. There is a problem with that, though, Joe. And that would perpetuate the misery, which is women's featherweight. And
bantamweight.
Object. I thought it was. Is it bantamweight? No, they didn't make weight.
It was 140 catch weight because Chiasson wasn't going to be able to make weight, and then Aldana agreed just to up the weight, which is, by the way, that's always such a stupid move.
I take it back.
I'll make a weight.
I'm not ready to scrap women's bantamweight. Sorry, ladies. I take it back. I thought because of the size of these women, Chia Sun being the biggest female fighter on the roster at 5'11", I thought it was a featherweight bout. There was one earlier on, Joe.
Danielle Wolf.
No more, Joe. Make it stop.
That was awful. That was an awful fight. Anyway, let's talk about what opened this main card. Johnny Walker defeated Ion Cutelaba in round 1 with a rear naked choke. Not something that I would have predicted.
No, you'd have made bank. I think it was 14-1, something like that.
It's crazy number. Cutelaba, as we talked about last week, he's become a slightly more measured fighter recently, which in turn has then led to losing 2 fights in a row, one of which to Ryan Spann. He's not on a good run. 1 win in 5, I think. I think we need to bring back the old Ion. I think we need the Ion who empties the tank in the first round. That's what we need back, not this measured Cutelaba. Otherwise, he's going to have to leave the UFC, I think.
I mean, with 1 win in your last 5, it is that kind of discussion that needs to be had. I mean, I don't think he's washed. I don't think he's finished.
No.
I don't know who I'd comfortably match him up with and expect him to beat, though.
Devin
Not a
Clark.
ranked opponent. Yeah, again? Hasn't he already?
Oh, yeah, he's just fought him, yeah. Alonzo Menenfield.
Oh, my God, he smokes Menenfield. Unless he goes, toe for toe swanging. He's got to wrestle the likes of Menenfield. But ultimately, we should be talking about Johnny Walker.
Yes,
is he back,
mate.
Joe?
No, he's not. He's still rubbish. But it was nice to see him get a win. He's a character. He's an odd bloke. If he's locked in now, maybe he can put a bit of a run together. He'll be a fun character if he can sort of get a bit of a run going. And as long as he gets an agreeable matchup, I think that's the most important thing.
It doesn't seem like that's what he's going to get, Joe, given his treatment post-fight.
Oh, yes! Tom, tell us what happened.
I mean, this should probably be the photograph of the episode cover here, but Johnny Walker, one of the high-profile stars of the sport, on the main card, wins by submission, first time in his UFC career, gets a big win, the crowd loves it. He probably leaves with his kind of superstar coach, Connor's coach, John Kavanagh, and he thinks he's going back to kind of get some eyes, look over his injuries, and watch the rest of the fight. But no, son, he's ushered out the back of the arena, kick straight out, no shoes, mate, no top, no medical attention, no hanging around watching the fights. Get out of here, son, sling your hook. Incredible picture on John Kavanagh's Twitter of a shoeless Johnny Walker who's just fought in front of God knows how many thousands of people, wandering around in the car park, having been kicked out of the venue.
A man walking around without shoes, only in his pants in Las Vegas. Probably not that shocking of a sight, is it? But yeah, I mean, it's madness, isn't it, that he was treated this way? Again, Dana was asked about this, and he's like, "There's some COVID protocol," he said. I don't think Vegas is taking that seriously anymore, so I'm not having that, mate. Just very odd. Very, very odd. Let's talk about the prelims. Was there a fight that stood out for you on the prelims that you want to shout out?
I think you have to pick out Barnett, the big fella. Partly
Barnett, not Barnett. It's Barnett.
No, he's got a hell of a Barnett on him, mate. I don't know what you're referring to. I mean, overcomes massive adversity outside of the ring, and then also inside of the ring, having been grounded and beaten in the first round, only to come back momentum style, as we have seen before at heavyweight, and finish his opponent. The other thing that was notable here, Joe, was another just bizarre action on the part of the UFC. Have you seen this?
What's this?
Chris Barnett is a heavyweight, and he got hit by another heavyweight, promptly taken to the hospital after the fight to be checked out. All good, green light. let's get him back so he can watch the rest of the main card. Steps outside looking for the cab, only to find that the UFC have forgotten about him. And he's just roaming around outside again at night in Vegas, battered and bruised. Fortunately, one of his team is with him. Right. They forgot about him, Joe. They didn't get him a cab or anything. He was on there. He was on his Instagram live streaming, asking his fans to come and pick him up, take him back to the venue.
This is ludicrous. What a weird card this was.
Yeah.
I mean, multiple fighters missing weight. Fighters being treated like absolute dirt, and not just in the booking. I mean, really just quite an odd card, wasn't it? All in all. One that I think we'll happily forget and never want to talk about again.
I mean, what I'm worried about, Joe, is ultimately, I think more people bought the pay-per-view because of all these shenanigans. The UFC does thrive on this. This is the WWE side of the UFC,
I mean, Vince is gone now, so you need someone to step up into that mantle, don't you?
Well, this is the way to do it. I just worry that they feel that, this is the way to go. Just fuck it, fuck the fighters, fuck the fans. They'll buy it anyway.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I do worry that if this does sell well, that they will in turn just think, well, we can just not really try that much when it comes to some of these cards. Just put some personality on there and whatever, and do some terrible matchmaking. But
did you have a fight from the prelims that you caught your attention?
That was the main one for me. Barnett. I thought it was an excellent heavyweights. A bit of slop. Nothing wrong with that. And every now and again. But also Jailton Almeida defeating Anton Turkalj. I believe is how you say his name. Almeida is. Whew, that guy's impressive. He absolutely manhandled him. And at light heavyweight and heavyweight, I think this guy's a problem. I think he should make the run at light heavyweight. I think this guy's got serious potential. Because I've seen his fights in the UFC. No one's been able to stop this guy so far. Yeah, I'd like to see him get a decent opponent at light heavyweight. Maybe a Krylov. Something along those lines, maybe. I think that could be a fun one.
Maybe you can get a Wikipedia page first before we match him up with the bright lights of the division. But yeah, a great showing for him for sure. I did want to give one quick mention, kind of an apology, really, to Julian Erosa.
Yeah, bro, you got to say sorry here. It was great performance. Solid performance,
I absolutely. It absolutely was. He looked absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal against a really well-qualified opponent, one who we both expected to make light work of Erosa, but it wasn't a B. All 3 rounds I gave them to Julian Erosa against Hakeem Dawodu. Beautiful.
Excellent. Really, really good performance. Kind of really exposed Dawodu. Like, he highlighted his flaws. And
he beat him everywhere, Joe.
Yeah, there was no... when it got to the ground as well, like, Erosa was in total control. It's really, really impressive performance. So fair play to Erosa. Right. Tom. Let's... Oh, by the way, my gold medal does go to the Leech for taking maybe, other than Chimaev, the most unfavourable matchup possible. I mean, literally, if they offered him Johnny Walker or Kutalaba, I think that would have been a more beneficial fight for the Leech. Anyway, let's talk about the news. Let's talk about this. This is tragic news. Elias Theodorou, formerly of the UFC middleweight division, died yesterday, I believe, of cancer. Was it of the liver, if I remember correctly? Yeah. 34 years old. To make it to the UFC and become ranked and to fight ranked guys and beat ranked guys, you have to be a talented fighter, and that is exactly what Theodorou was. Had a very distinct style, that sort of karate style as well. And yeah, this is a real shame. He started to seem to turn it round. Had 3 wins after getting cut from the UFC. Seemed to be making a good run of it. Maybe getting back into the UFC's promotion. And then he gets hit with cancer and struck down from there. And it's a real shame. And it's horrifying to think that a man of that age would go from that.
Absolutely.
Very, very, very sad news.
Yeah, as a man around that age myself, it does bring the kind of value of life and the value of every day into focus. Theodoro kept it secret. He was competing as recently as December of 2021, as you say, on a 3-fight streak as well. Well liked. People gave a good account of him, as a personality. Something of an advocate for medicinal cannabis use, which I think has been shown now to have quite a lot of value in a variety of contexts. He was actually, one of the first fighters, I think, if not the first fighter, to get an exemption for medical cannabis use. So
yeah, I believe he was. Yeah,
sad news, and best wishes to those close to him.
Yes, indeed. It's tragic news. I don't know really how to move on from that, to be honest, Tom.
No appropriate way.
There is no appropriate way. We do have one more piece of news that will hopefully cheer the people up after that. Joaquin Buckley. We love Buckley on this podcast, as you well know. He posted a video whilst watching Chimaev versus Holland in the arena, and he was talking mad smack, and he's talking how he's coming down to 170, bro, and he said, Chimaev, if you're still there, I'll face you and I'll smack you around, and he even called him a hoe.
He tapped. Hey, 170 is my new division. Fuck what y'all talking about. 170 is my new division. They not gonna give me Khamzat, but I'm telling you this right now. If Khamzat fight me, it's done. Bitch, I wrestle too, ho. Bitch,
it was quite a promo, as per usual, from Joaquin. Only 17 seconds, but brother, that's all you need to produce some absolute solid gold. Joaquin at 170, we sort of hinted at it on the last podcast. This is probably the correct move for him, don't you think, Tom?
Correct move for humanity, Joe. Bring it on. That's a delicious prospect. I mean, we found out in the last fight with Imavov, game as he was, moral though his victory was, in the cage he did ultimately lose the fight, and that was giving up that just huge range, massive reach disadvantage, and you cannot be throwing 5 strikes to land 1. So welterweight seems the appropriate class for him. I don't think he's gonna lose any of that physique, Joe. I don't think so. I don't know what's gonna go from that frame, but
it'll still be glorious indeed.
I
by the way,
so.
There's some great matchups for him at welterweight, including a rematch with Kevin Holland. Like, that would be incredible. The first fight that popped into my mind, though, he's not going to get it, but him versus Vicente Luque. Oh my God, splooge!
Oh my God! But Joe, give the man, a warm up before you.
Oh yeah.
Him, what about
Tim Means? Yeah, Tim Means. That's who he should be facing. By the way,
they let Holland have that one.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a lot of fights I'm excited to see.
Now, the comedy one that I immediately am drawn to is Michel Pereira.
Oh right, I was going to say Jorge Masvidal, but yeah, Michel Pereira. That would be mad if he fought him. God, Pereira versus Buckley. That would be
just
incredible.
Full juice, yeah. 2 Goliaths.
Yeah. What about Nico Price as a warm up, maybe?
Yep. I hope that's not a banana skin, but yeah, I think he smokes Price, doesn't he? I think he's evolved. I really think Buckley's evolved, and I very much doubt that Nico Price has. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm really drawn to this division for Buckley, because also I know that Imavov took him down and took his back, but Buckley defended well after that, and he actually defended well on the ground anyway. So I think, other than your
and then got up, Joe, and won the 3rd round. If that went 5 rounds, Joaquin Buckley would be next up for the belt for me. So
absolutely. Right, let's look ahead to this Saturday. A fight night card headlined by an absolute banger. Cory Sandhagen versus Song Yadong. This is tremendous, isn't it? And the question is, can Song Yadong step up to the level of Sandhagen? We've talked about it in previous weeks when talking about this fight, and the answer is a unanimous no. We like Song Yadong, but my word, he is no Cory Sandhagen.
Certainly, Joe. I think you summed it up best there. I mean, that's a pretty big gap to jump. I think Song Yadong is going to find himself talking about gaps to jump. I think the height differential between these two will compound the issues that you would expect Song Yadong to find against the type of striker that you get in Cory Sandhagen.
The interesting thing here is it's going to be a striking battle, but Song Yadong, he's quite a conventional kickboxer in terms of how he works, whereas Sandhagen, he's happy going backwards. He can go forward as well. He's got unconventional striking. He's moving side to side, and also he can draw people into his attacks, most notably being the Frankie Edgar knockout, and he's strong going backwards and forwards. And he was also in our Fight of the Year 4 last year against Piotr Jan, an absolute barn burner classic. And to go toe to toe with Piotr Jan like that, not many people get to do that, and Sandhagen did indeed do that on that night, coming up a bit short, but still, nonetheless, an incredible performance.
Now, I think what we can see here in this matchup, for me, we have been really holding Bantamweight in high esteem, just absolutely jam-packed with talent, hard to separate them. But what I think we see in this fight is that there is levels to this game, even at Bantamweight. And what I'm saying there, Joe, is we've kind of got the creme de la creme, the leading part of the pack. It's a big pack. It contains Cory Sandhagen, Merab Dvalishvili, Petr Yan, Aljamain, TJ Dillashaw is in there as well, and I think Marlon Vera and perhaps Aldo rounding out that top pack. And then the chasing pack, some of them kind of running out of petrol quite quickly. Dominic Cruz,
Rob
Font, Pedro Munoz, and I think Song Yadong is going to be trapped. He's going to be trapped amongst that kind of crowd. Frankie Edgar would be in there too, and then
Frankie Edgar, Jesus, he's well below that pack.
Not according to the rankings, Joe. He's still sat there at 12th somehow. But yeah, you're of course right. We know in actuality it's different. Of course, there are some guys, young hot prospects, who could emerge and come to the top of the pack, and we're looking at the likes of Ricky Simon, Yanez,
Jack Shaw,
maybe Sean O'Malley. Jack Shaw, he obviously had that big setback, so I'm not.
He had his fight with Kyler Phillips cancelled as well after getting an injury. But yeah, we got also Umar Nurmagomedov, who can make that run. So it's
still great.
It's an incredible division,
but there's a little gap opening out after number 6, after the great Jose Aldo.
Can I run through the rest of this card, and I'll read the fights off for the main card, and then I want you to give me who you think will win the fight. Sounds fair, Tom?
Sounds fair.
At 185, Anthony Hernandez versus Marc-Andre Barrio.
Ooh. I will have Anthony Hernandez.
Cool. Alan Amadovsky versus Joseph Pfeiffer at 185. Pfeiffer's promotional debut.
Pfeiffer's coming in hot, Joe. He's gonna take this one by decision.
Wow, this is going to be a banger of a fight here at 145. Andre Feely versus Bill Algeo.
I'm all over Bill Algeo. Quietly simmering away there.
Same here, Bill Algeo for me. And then this one, this is stonking at middleweight. Chidi Njokwani versus Gregory Robocop Rodriguez. Woo, boy!
Fantastic.
What minute of round 1 is that going to finish?
Yeah, Gregory Rodriguez has looked excellent. Super excited to see him now after that last fight against the Cuban fella who goes by the
Marquez.
name of... That's right, yeah. That was a great showing.
Yes.
I suspect Rodriguez will top off that performance with another one here and continue to surge up the rankings.
Excellent. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. I'll be back next week to talk about that Sandhagen Song Yadong card. Tom may be joining me, I'm not too sure. But anyway, listeners, thank you so much for joining us. You can contact us at holdonbrother69@gmail.com. Rate, review, spread the words, and we'll be back soon. Tom, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Good night, everybody.